just wait for.
We'll be bringing a copy shortly.
Are we okay back there, Kelly and James? Just want to be sure. We're good? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming out today. Just going to lay a little bit of groundwork. First and foremost, that I'm going to just provide some basic information today. This is in relation to some suspected hate-motivated investigations that are ongoing within the Winnipeg Police Service. We have a number of people here today that are going to provide some information with respect to the work that we are doing and the work that needs to be done with respect to the climate that we're currently dealing with. During October 2023, the Winnipeg Police Service has responded to several reports of suspected hate-motivated crimes. Reports have included incidents of property damage and most recently, a shooting within a residential neighborhood. There are four, and again, we want to provide some background. There are four offenses within the Criminal Code of Canada that specifically pertain to hate, and they fall under hate propaganda section, and they are as follows: advocating genocide, public incitement of hatred, willful promotion of hatred, mischief relating to religious property, educational institutions, etc. Where a criminal code offense has been committed and there is evidence it was motivated by hate or bias towards an identifiable group, for example, race, nationality, ethnic origin, language, color, religion, sex, age, mental or physical disabilities, or sexual orientation, the court may impose a greater punishment. We have to keep all those things in mind. Investigations involving these crimes can be complex, and it's important the public understand this is very complicated, and sometimes it's a pretty confusing topic. So what I want to do now is just kind of lay out some brief synopsis with respect to investigations that we have been made aware of over the past month, and we're without a doubt and unfortunately seeing an escalation in some of these events. Initially, between the 7th and 8th of October, we were made aware of multiple incidents where reports of eggs being thrown at the doors of residents within the South Part area of the city. Those investigations obviously are ongoing. We've had instances where a suspicious circumstance was brought to our attention. On October 12th, we responded to the parking lot of the 100 block of Harrow Street for the report of a vandalized religious item. The damaged item was unattended when officers arrived. We've responded to incidents involving mischief to property, where graffiti was sprayed, and this was on October 13th, in close proximity to a school, as well as a place of worship within the River Heights area. Area residents did observe the graffiti and clearly concerned. We've also noted multiple incidents of suspicious activity via social media. This would be between October 15th and 24th. These were racially motivated social media posts that were reported to police. Again, we are very concerned and actively investigating. And the most recent incident on October 22nd, at approximately 4:30 a.m., residents of a River Heights neighborhood heard the smashing of the front window of their home. It became apparent that the window had been shot out, and police were contacted. None of the residents were injured, thankfully. However, at this time, we don't have any suspect information, but this investigation obviously is ongoing. Something to note, the residents had a visible religious symbol near the home's front door, and the crime is being investigated as a suspected hate-motivated crime. This investigation is actively being looked into by Major Crimes Unit hate crimes investigators. And we are asking anyone with information to call investigators at 986-6219, or if anyone experiences anything like this, calling 911 immediately should be their priority. I think our main message today really is hate crimes have no place in our community. We remain committed to investigating suspected hate-motivated crimes under the provisions of the Criminal Code of Canada, and reports of this nature, or any crimes for that matter, 911 should be called at all times if anybody's safety is being compromised or if there is an incident in progress. Non-emergency lines can, non-emergency calls can be made as well to provide us with valuable information with respect to these concerning incidents. Winnipeg Crime Stoppers is also an option, so there are a lot of options for individuals to report these matters to police. From an investigative perspective, any reports of suspicious behavior, mischief, or acts of violence which may be hate-related will be immediately flagged for a major crimes unit to investigate. The Winnipeg Police Service continues to be vigilant when responding to any calls for service or critical incidents concerning this ongoing conflict, and the conflict that is occurring on the other side of the world is certainly having its impact here. As we all know, it is far-reaching. Today's release, there's a lot of information, obviously, we're trying to get across. There's a lot of information that we can't share in detail with you. But I think it is really important that, as a service, we provide this basic information and the escalation in some of these incidents that we're seeing. Something else that will be shared momentarily by Superintendent Dave Dalal is regarding some upcoming demonstrations as well. And he'll be providing details regarding counter-protests. And again, I just want to get this message across as well. Counter-protests produce conditions that significantly impact the risk to the community. It is causing increased tensions between parties, potential for acts of violence and mischief, and a significant demand on our resources. The Winnipeg Police Service is not asking the community to refrain from peaceful, lawful assembly. Our message is pretty simple. We are asking those who have countering views to a planned event to do so at a different time and location. Let's be respectful of one another at all times. And again, our focus each and every day is to ensure that these matters are investigated fully and hold people accountable for their actions. I'd now like to invite Inspector Jen McKinnon. She is the commander for our Major Crimes Division, and she just has a few words she'd like to say.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Jennifer McKinnon, and I'm the Inspector of the Major Crimes Division. My division encompasses homicide, major crimes, financial crimes, and property crimes, and hate-motivated crimes, which is what brings me here today. The ongoing conflict in the Middle East is having a profound impact all over the world. And we have not been immune from these effects of the conflict locally. In recent weeks, the Winnipeg Police Service has seen an increase of reported incidents that may be motivated by hate. I am here to talk about behavior, not beliefs. These incidents have escalated from property damage, posting of hate messages and images on social media, emails containing hate messaging, and to most recently, a shooting into a residential home. While I'm unable to comment on these ongoing investigations, I want to share with you that these incidents are being investigated by the Major Crimes Unit as hate-motivated crimes. We are taking this very seriously. It's likely there are further incidents, and maybe people are hesitant to come forward to report to us. I want to encourage anyone who believes they have been a victim of hate-motivated offense to come forward. These can include suspicious behavior, property damage, acts of violence. All incidents reported as or believed to be motivated by hate are being forwarded directly to the Major Crimes Unit. Anyone with information regarding these incidents or wishing to speak with an investigator is encouraged to call our non-emergency number at 204-986-6222. If it's an emergency and you require immediate assistance, please call 911. Thank you.
Thank you, Inspector McKinnon. I'll now ask that Superintendent Dave Delal, he's the Superintendent of Operations, come forward to say a few words. Sir.
Good afternoon. I'm also going to highlight that Superintendent Bonnie Emerson is here, as she may have some information as well regarding how our police liaison teams interact on the topic that I'm speaking about, and that is community protests and mass demonstrations. So what I'm here to say is that we're seeing a concerning trend in our community that is impacting public safety. My main role is a superintendent of uniform operations, as Jason said, but my secondary assignment is to oversee our event command team. Now, our event command team are the ones responsible for monitoring events in the community, including strikes, protests, rallies, counter-protests, and anything that causes large crowds to get together. We also need to assess what, if any, police resources are required to bring together to these events for community safety as well as officer safety. Given the unpredictable nature of crowds and individuals within the crowds, and depending on the issue at hand, police must use all the information available to us to assess what police resources must be assigned to these events. Things such as known attendees, stated intentions, the issue at hand, as well as the focus of the event are just some of the considerations for the event command team when assigning police resources. You may have heard me highlight to the police board in the last year that events are on the rise in our community. Year over year, we've seen more and more events being organized, and a number of factors go into the planning of these events. As you know, anybody with a social media account can organize an event, which then requires the police to do some level of assessment on what is required for that event. This year so far, we are monitoring 235 events already, and this is a substantial draw on police resources. It really does take us away from responding to calls for service from citizens in need, and this is especially important when large police resources are required during counter-protests. So those who are calling for help from the police must wait for available police resources while we stand by and monitor these large events. So the trend I want to flag for the community today is, and ask for your assistance with, is the counter-protest. It's becoming commonplace that as soon as somebody with a particular view organizes an event in our community, somebody with an opposing view decides to organize an event at that same date and time to offer up their view in the face of those who've organized the first event. This counter-protest produces conditions that increase risk to the community and to those who have gathered and to the officers assigned. These events require a much larger police presence in order to keep people safe, and they do create harmful situations and amplify emotions. They cause increased tension between the parties, and we've seen acts of violence and mischief at these events already. So we're not asking, the WPS is not asking the community to refrain from peaceful, lawful assembly. We are not trying to police beliefs, as you've heard. We are concerned with the behavior at these events. We are asking that those who have countering views to a particular event that is planned to do so at a different time, location, or date to offer your views on the matter. We're also asking organizers to refrain from having these protests go mobile, because that adds a layer of complexity and community safety to those participating, as well as motorists. Now, last weekend we had a number of protests and rallies. Each of those protests and rallies had a counter-protest organized. It required a significant police response, and it also required police to intervene to keep parties separated as emotions ran high. This trend is very concerning given the volatile nature of crowds. So we're asking for everybody's cooperation to contribute to peace in our community. Again, the Winnipeg Police Service respects the right to freedom of expression and peaceful assembly. including the right to participate in protests and rallies, regardless of your beliefs. But violence and aggression, both physical and verbal abuse, have no place at these events. We're calling on the event organizers and everyone who wants their voices heard to treat one another with respect. We want our city to be a safe space, and we want everyone to be kind to one another. That is all I have to say at this moment.
Thank you, sir. We've thrown a lot of information at you, and obviously today's release is without a doubt twofold. We will take some questions, and we'll do our best to answer them. Please keep in mind that there's a lot of information that we will not be able to provide, but we'll do our best. And if there's something that we can answer for you today here at the podium, myself, the entire PIO crew here will do our best to help you out after the fact. So, questions at this point?
Last weekend's rally outside the CMHR, there was a protester with a sign, "Please keep the world clean," with an Israeli flag and what appeared to be a garbage bin. Is that something police are investigating?
You know, we're investigating a number of incidents in relation to perceived threats of violence or hate, and we're aware of that particular post. I believe there was something that was placed on social media, and you have to understand, and I think the message that we tried to get across today is many of these instances, like the one you're mentioning, Josh, is incredibly concerning and are being investigated as suspected hate motivated. But until such time arrests are made and we fully understand who's involved, what their intentions are, you know, we can't specifically identify them as hate crimes, but we are investigating a number of incidents, like you have mentioned, that are hate motivated. You know, again, as a police service, we're incredibly saddened to see this public display. We're acknowledging them and we're investigating them to the best of our ability. Okay? Go ahead.
You talk about the vandalism of the house with a religious sign. Could you be more precise?
Are you referring to the shooting incident?
Yeah.
We're not going to get into the specifics of any religious symbols of any kind today. We're not going to get into those specifics. We are acknowledging that there was a religious symbol displayed at the front of the residence. And with that information, that's where we, as a police agency, as investigators, that Inspector Jen McKinnon oversees, they will take that information. We'll look at it and go, okay, this information that we do have does appear to be hate motivated. It is suspected as such, but we have so much information that we have to gather yet. We are working with this family and other individuals who have been subjected to vandalism, damage, whatever the case may be. And we're doing our best to provide them with the reassurance that investigators and specifically officers who are, you know, we'll call them experts in the field of, you know, hate-motivated crimes, and we're doing our very best to hold people accountable for their actions. That's ultimately what our goal is. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name. You spoke of acts of violence occurring at protests and counter-protests. What specifically are you talking about?
Last Saturday, we saw a number of rocks being thrown, both in the area of police and to the counter protests. So that's one of the incidents that we're investigating actively.
And one of these mentions a number of racially motivated social media posts. If those are determined to be the hate motivated, what kind of charges could someone be facing for those social media posts?
Well, I mean, I know there are, under the criminal code, I mean, we could be looking at charges of, you know, again, depending on what the comments are specifically. I mean, there are utter threats under the criminal code, but I guess to specifically move forward with charges of these being hate crimes, we have to fully understand what who's involved, what their intent, what their motivations are. And those charges oftentimes aren't until the investigation is complete, until we have all the evidence. Sometimes hate-motivated charges could potentially not even be considered at the time of sentencing after a conviction has occurred. So again, it is really difficult for us to say for sure what charges could be laid, but clearly we are investigating these as suspected, motivated by hatred. But again, we are not in a position to acknowledge them as hate crimes until such time the investigation is complete.
And at this time, we see a number of things that, hate-related or not, are just simply crimes, whether it's damage to property, whatever it is. Have there been any charges laid up to this point?
Hate charges?
Any charges related to the number of instances?
No, not at this time, no. These investigations are ongoing, they're active, they're fluid. We are encouraging members of the public to come forward, and I think it had already been mentioned by Inspector McKinnon that individuals might be very, they're fearful, they're scared to come forward, and all we can say is, we encourage them, but there's a number of ways individuals can come forward, and ensuring that they are safe, have the conversations, and we want to provide them with the reassurance that we are actively involved in these investigations, and we're going to provide them with all the supports we can. Absolutely.
From a legal standpoint, is there anything that police can do to ensure that there aren't counter protests, or is this more of like an ask to the community?
This is an ask. I mean, like I said, everybody has the right to peaceful protest and peaceful assembly. Where the challenge is when they tend to do that in the face and in the same location of those with very strong opposing views. So we're not trying to stamp down anybody organizing anything for their beliefs, any rallies. We're just asking for consideration to do it at a different time and location so that we don't have to put a wall of officers in between those folks who tend to incite each other and work each other up.
And I know you said there have been no charges laid. Are there suspects that you guys are looking at? Are you able to say that?
So there's ongoing, like from the crowd perspective, one of the things we do is obviously try to record as best possible the events. And so post-event, we go through all the evidence that we've collected and see if we can identify anybody who's done anything that would warrant charges.
Did police see the "Please Keep the World Clean" sign of protests?
I'm not aware of anything around that one, sorry.
Would officers intervene if they saw something like that at the time?
I'm not sure. It was very dependent on the dynamics of the situation, whether officers are outnumbered, whether seizing that item at the time would cause a reaction. So it's very dependent, and I'm just sorry, not quite sure on that exact one you're asking about.
You talk about the increasing number of hate-motivated crimes.
Say that again?
You talk about an increasing number of hate-motivated crimes. Do you have a number about how many you register?
Yeah, I think our main message there is obviously we're seeing an increase, we're seeing an escalation with respect to the types of incidents. I mean, today we're acknowledging a number of incidents that range from some property damage, spray painting. We're talking about houses that have been hit with eggs, and then to the extreme of where a front window was shot out. So I think it's the escalation that we're truly acknowledging here, and the seriousness of it, and the fact that we want to provide the public with the reassurance that officers are attending these matters. We are noting the potential of hate-motivated hate-motivated component to it, and members of our major crimes unit will be actively involved. So I think that's the escalation that I'm referring to. I don't have specific numbers to provide you, but I think today I've acknowledged roughly 10 incidents from roughly the first week of October to today.
Okay, so 1,000 incidents.
I'm sorry?
1,000 incidents.
Roughly, yeah.
Have police reached out to leaders of the Jewish Palestinian communities with this ask?
Yes, we've been in regular contact with leaders from the community. And while the Jewish Federation has sent out a message asking community members not to participate in counter protests, clearly there's individuals who have their own views on insisting that their views must be heard in the voices of the Palestinians that are organizing their protests. So we're asking again for everybody to show restraint and peace and not organize a counter-protest.
Was there a meeting with community leaders today at all on this?
I'm not aware per se of today, no.
Okay. Superintendent Bonnie Emerson.
Hi, I'm Superintendent Bonnie Emerson from the Community Portfolio, Community Engagement. To answer the two different questions, one is our diversity section and our police liaison teams do ongoing pre-event, event, and post-event engagement. And that's with organizers of events for mass demonstration and assembly, and it's also ongoing within the diversity unit, ongoing strategic partnerships. That's that first piece. The second piece is we have met with from the liaison team. So to be clear, Superintendent DeLaw's portfolio from special events has the overarching responsibility of police response. The portfolio that I'm speaking to is utilizing the measured approach, utilizing the national framework that we spoke about a year ago, right, on police response to mass demonstration. How do we utilize education before enforcement to de-escalate situations? So to that end, yes, we've met with organizers of event, constantly engage with organizers, influencers, and community leaders. I'm not going to be identifying in a public forum who we've met with, but I can assure you that we have met with them. It is ongoing, and I am open to that ongoing dialogue because there's different events being planned, not just within these communities regarding this situation. So that is an ongoing premise that we have.
Okay, if there are no further questions, we'll end it there. If there are any follow-up questions that may come, by all means, contact the PIO directly. We'll do our very best to assist you. So thanks again for coming out. Have a good afternoon.